With great power comes great responsibility, and you have the power to sign up for extratugg.com for exclusive perks and videos. Check it out. Am I still upside down, Chris? Please put me back up normal. My head's getting big. So here's the deal. We know nothing. I know nothing. You know nothing. Our moms know nothing. They're practically nothing. It's just, you know those like random questions that pop into your head when you're trying to fall asleep or you're just like zoning out on a train ride or some shit? I get those all the time. And it's nice because I'm stupid and I don't have any follow through, but there's people out there who are scientists or discoverers and they spend their lives figuring out those questions for us so we don't gotta go digging. But once I dive into Google or Wikipedia, I realize just how little our experts know. None of my toilet questions can be answered by people who are smarter than me because they can't figure them out, and that's terrifying. My phone can recognize my face, we can shoot rockets into outer space, but somehow we don't know why most people are right-handed? We don't know why that's a thing? What do you mean? That's a basic question to be answered. We have had hundreds of years of science of beakers and bubbling liquids. How do you tell me we don't know how most people are right-handed? It turns out that most of life is just wading through murky unknowns until we die. Now, I don't want to get into it, but hey, what happens when we die? We don't know. That's the one thing that plagues everyone's lives and we can't even get a glimpse into the last spot. Not one moment of this video is going to bode well for my crippling anxiety. I'm already freaking out and I haven't even started the video yet. And yes, I've had a couple cups of coffee and a little bit of a Red Bull. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it. My mental health is peak. Okay, all right. Now it's time to break into the fact that we know absolutely nothing. Chris, if you could put up a nice title on the screen. Do it for me. I'm having a bad time right now. So to begin, I get that science is an ever-evolving conversation that builds upon itself using data. I respect that. However, it's hard not to freak out about the aspect of how we've been horribly wrong about several aspects of our everyday life throughout the past several hundred years. Even the greatest, most celebrated minds of mankind have been laughably wrong several times. What I'm about to say is gonna sound like that scene in Always Sunny where Mac is proving that God exists. I don't really remember exactly what was going on in that episode, but I'm going to point out that science is a liar sometimes.
Science is a liar sometimes.
Oh boy.
Earth was considered the center of the universe for nearly 1,500 years. The idea was that the sun, moon, and all the celestial bodies in the space revolve around Earth, which, to be fair, was an incredible ego trip we were on, but we didn't know anything. We just knew we were smarter than animals, and that was pretty much the end of the list, so I understand their mentality. The idea was called the geocentric model, and today we know that it was 100% wrong. Well, not everyone. Some people on Twitter still think it's correct, but those people are literally as dumb as worms, so we can't carry everyone to the finish line. But back in the day, everyone had worm brains. Everyone was on board for this shit. Even the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, the father of logic, believed in the geocentric model, to the point where he used his own formal system of reasoning to further prove it was true. With enough authority, circular reasoning, and conviction, you can kind of prove anything you want. Don't believe me? Ask your uncle about January 6th. You're not gonna win that because he has enough bullshit to cram into your mouth. Biases can creep into science in 100 different ways. The Catholic Church used passages from the Bible to support geocentrism while condemning Galileo's writing about the Earth's revolving around the sun and charging him with heresy. They just took all Galileo's books and threw it in a vault. And here's a tip: if the church doesn't want you to read something, you should probably read it because it's probably correct. But maybe it's not the best look for me to sit here and dunk on ancient science. I mean, these guys were in holes in the ground. I don't know why I'm giving them such a hard time. They didn't know much. But enough about those old idiots. Let's look at modern idiots, focusing on our doctors. Now, this is going to be a lot of anti-trust the science, but you know, sometimes people get it wrong. Of course, there are lots of examples of doctors prescribing drugs in bad faith. That's why we're in the middle in a long opiate crisis. But what keeps me up at night isn't corruption, it's just straight up bad medicine. For example, in the 18th century, physicians thought tobacco smoke enemas cured cholera and resuscitated drowning victims. This must have been an amazing time to be alive. If you had a tummy ache or you were physically drowning, someone would hand you a pack of Pall Malls and say, get it together. And they didn't stop by just blowing smoke up your ass either, which I'm wondering if that's where that term comes from. A cigarette enema? Wild. Yeah, no, it wasn't just cigarettes. Sometimes they put milk in your veins. They just did that for some reason. Doctors in the 19th century thought milk could substitute for blood. So yeah, milk transfusions, otherwise known as murder. They just murdered people. But I must say, I kind of do love the fact that doctors just used to wing it. They just used to go into the operating room and say, hey, let's fill this guy up with cotton candy. What's gonna happen if we do that? Doctors of this era also dabbled in what we would refer to as today as hardcore drugs. Getting a little sick back in the day meant you would get the most insane prescription from a certified physician. Been coughing a lot lately? Here, heroin cough syrup for your ailment. Feeling fatigued? Nosed a little stuffed up? Well, we have meth for you, my young boy. You'll feel right as rain, except for a few side effects. All your teeth are gonna rot out, and your house is going to be clean as But of all the ways that scientists are wrong, nothing illustrates that point quite like the dinosaur. How did we go from meth to dinosaurs? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not very good at script writing. We've been flip-flopping on our theories about these prehistoric monsters from day one. And I know this might come off as a little ignorant, but I want to stick to the Jurassic Park theory of dinosaurs. That was their peak era. Of course, our understanding of what dinosaurs were actually like was always going to shift, because at the end of the day, all we're doing is just guessing where the meat goes on the bones. We just have a bunch of bones, and we have to reverse engineer what this thing might look like. And they don't even have all of the bones sometimes, so they gotta guess even harder. If someone presented me with a dismembered chicken carcass and told me to put it back together, you'd get something that looks nothing like a chicken. You'd probably get, I don't know, it would kind of look like a Lego car. Granted, I'm not a paleontologist, but honestly, they don't seem to know that much about what they're doing either. Scientists also thought that Stegosaurus also had 2 brains and one of them was in its hip, but now they don't think that it did, because no shit. Why would having 2 brains is a lot in the first place? I don't think any living thing has that, but you're also gonna have a second one in the hip? Why would it be in the hip? Paleontologists, figure it out. I could go on and on. They used to be giants, and now we think a lot of them were the size of a turkey. They used to be lizards, now they're birds. The only thing that's consistent with each iteration of dinosaurs is that they get way less cool every single time. So let's stop looking into dinosaurs. Just give me the T-Rex. That's all anyone ever wanted. But to be fair, I think we can give science a pass for not knowing certain things. I mean, even as uncool as they made dinosaurs, I'll admit that it's nuts they ever figured out anything about them at all. Namely because they don't exist anymore. It's just a pile of bone puzzles that people are putting together to figure shit out. But there are other things that we should definitely know by now. Things that have been constant for a long time and that we have had the ability to study in the here and the now. For example, take sleep. We don't know jack shit about sleeping, and it's terrifying. Sure, without sleeping you will die, and it's something every living person has done every day since the beginning of time, yet here we are, at a complete loss as to why we have to do it and why we do it every single night. All scientists know is what happens when we sleep. Basically, it's like shutting off the Xbox for the night to let it cool off. It gives us a chance to repair, process information, and clear out the waste. But there could have been many evolutionary alternatives to sleep that might have been safer and just as effective. Sleep fully goes against our evolutionary process because it makes us pass out in the middle of the night, you know, when the lions are eating. What is a god dream? Not a poetic way. What is a dream? Why am I hallucinating? Again, scientists don't know. We do know that everybody dreams every single night, and if you say you don't, you're a liar. Everyone dreams, it's just a matter of if you remember your dreams. That's all it is. Studies show that upwards of 95% of dreams are immediately forgotten, but then there's that pesky 5% that we remember. You know, like last night, I dreamt that I was floating in the Outer Wilds practice area. I played I'm 30 minutes in, and I'm already in love with it. Oh my god, I'm so excited to keep playing that game. But regardless, it was terrifying. But we forget 95% of your dreams because, hate to break it to you, but dreams are normally boring. And we've all had the same ones. Another science thing can't be answered? Why do we have so many common nightmares? What's that all about? Showing up to school naked, getting to a sports game and you forgot your cleats, all your teeth falling out. I had that so many times in high school. Scientists think this is our brains consolidating and processing memories and images. And I guess it's pretty similar that we all have similar dreams because life is pretty monotonous, and we all pretty much end up doing the same boring shit every day, and you probably don't brush your teeth every night because even though you're a good person, you forget sometimes or you just feel lazy or depressed, and that's why you think your teeth are falling out. But still, it would be nice to know what exactly the point of the whole involuntary sleep movies thing is truly all about. And not to beat a dead horse and stay on this whole being sleepy thing, but we're gonna move a little past it. But what is yawning? You know, yawning? You're probably gonna start doing it because I brought it up, which is another part we don't understand, but we don't even know what a yawn is. We don't know why we do that. We know that it's contagious, and a lot of animals do it, and of course there are a bunch of theories about it, but it's all just a jumbled mess of guesses. We have no goddamn clue why we yawn. But don't worry, our brightest minds are on the case. Kind of. Researchers in London used a robotic head that yawned to see if it would trigger a chimpanzee to mimic the behavior. And it did, because we are living in a dystopian nightmare. What did we learn from that? Why don't we try and figure out why this happens in the first place? I'll give you money. I will start a Kickstarter to get enough scientists to figure this out, because where's the money going? Now, the fact that we don't understand anything about being sleepy is terrifying, but there is even more basic shit that we fundamentally do not understand, and we're gonna talk about those right now. Number one, ice. Why is it slippery? We don't know. We don't know why ice is slippery. This isn't as nearly as complicated as sleep, a mystery of the inner workings of the brain. This is ice. 10% of the planet is covered in it. And sure, we can explain what makes ice slippery. It's actually really boring. However, there's also the issue of ice adhering to other surfaces. It's sticky. Ice sticks to shit, but it's also slippery at the same time. Have you ever thought of how weird that is? Because it doesn't make sense, and scientists don't know why that happens. Of course, scientists have their theories, but there is no definitive answer. I'm gonna be saying that a lot in this video. Honestly, the only thing we know about ice is that it shows up at your door, you don't have to let them in. That's political, haha. But you want to know something even more basic than ice that we don't understand? The bicycle. The common bicycle. Bicycles have been around since 1818, and in that time, we have figured out that their spinning wheels resist tilting, and that the wheels making contact behind a steering axis help them self-correct. But researchers have isolated those two concepts and removed them from a bike design, and the wheels still stand upright. I don't know if I'm explaining how crazy this is. All of this makes me even more upset when you think of old-timey bikes with that big wheel in the front and the little one in the bottom, or even unicycles. Like, that should not work. Now let's go into the fantastical. Now that we're talking about God's miracles, physics and biology aside, we don't know why people disappear all the time. People are constantly vanishing from this Earth. I don't want to get too conspiratorial here, even though that would probably help me game the YouTube's algorithm, but sometimes people just vanish and we never find them. Now that's pretty hard to do when you're a high-profile person. Even before the world had the internet and smartphones, we still had tons of newspapers and radio coverage on major events. Yet somehow, we still have had some of these people just slip through the cracks, just drip out of reality into the back rooms. I'm not talking about some rando turning away from society and walking into the ocean. I'm talking world-famous disappearances. For instance, Amelia Earhart is a great example of this. One day she took a flight and poof, she just vanished over the Pacific Ocean. No wreckage, no idea what happened to her. Or D.B. Cooper. We all have heard of D.B. Cooper. The guy who hijacked a Boeing 727, stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, then parachuted out of a plane mid-flight and was never found. And even in our modern, hyper-connected era, people still go missing all the time. Despite the fact that everyone has a camera on their phone and there are over 15 CCTVs per 100 citizens in the US. Madeleine McCann disappeared. I don't know who that is, but my producer Georgia, she's really into this case, and it's just a girl who disappeared in London, I think. Madeleine was a 3-year-old who was kidnapped in 2007 while her family was on vacation in Portugal. This story had massive international media coverage and nothing. Not even a trace. She's still missing. And then there was the Malaysia Airlines flight that disappeared in 2014. That's an entire Boeing 777 that crashed. And there's been like little pieces of wreckage, but we have no idea where it went. Small pieces of the wing have showed up and no bodies. What is happening? So aside from planes crashing, most of the things we don't understand fall into the why category. We know how something works, and then the why is mostly fantastical and inconsequential, so we kind of ignore it. But I think for some of the bigger scientific unknowns, we should prioritize figuring them out since, they constitute some pretty big stuff. And I would say we should start with anything medical. When a doctor puts some shit in my skin, I want to know why that works. We are so cavalier about medicine that it is honestly terrifying. Take anesthesia, for example. When a doctor puts some some goop in your arm and you're gone, you just lose consciousness. Hospitals have been using anesthesia to knock out patients and slice them open for 170 years. And say it with me, class, we don't know why it works. It's just a witchcraft. Apparently, we're getting closer to understanding why, but all these scientific papers keep contradicting each other. So I guess we're getting closer to figuring it out, but I'm just gonna say that if you only know 50% of something, that's pretty much not knowing something, right? And maybe that wouldn't be so scary if not for the fact that sometimes people wake up in the middle of surgery. And maybe the most up part about this is that anesthesia failure is not uncommon. It happens a lot. There's evidence to suggest that it happens 5% of the time. And Tucker, that's a small amount of time. Not really. That's really not that small percent of a time. It can also produce amnesia for the people that it happened to. So there's a chance that many people became conscious during a surgery and don't even remember the fact. So you just live through this traumatic ass experience and then you just go on living your life. That literally sounds like a Black Mirror hell episode. That sucks. But anesthesia is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to science that we don't understand. We also don't know why antidepressants work, which is wild when you consider how freely this is prescribed, by the way. In 2021, 59 million antidepressant prescriptions were filled in the US alone. They work for some people, but the side effects for others are too severe to continue taking. Which brings me to the placebo. What the witchcraft is this? You might think that placebos only work on people who are highly naive and not actually sick, but science disagrees. Placebos tend to work for many people. In some cases, even some people that know that they're getting a placebo, which makes no sense. But hey, we might as well use placebos in clinical trials anyways, right? Because science is just one big guessing game at this point. Not knowing why certain medications work is crazy. Let's just get that out of the way. But not as crazy as the fact that we don't even understand the fundamental concepts of our reality. And this is the part where I talk about gravity. We don't know why gravity happens. We see the effects of gravity, we feel the effects of gravity, but physicists don't know what gravity is. We just know it makes stick to itself when it gets too big. That is a crazy thing to not understand. It is arguably the biggest part of our day-to-day lives, and we have no clue why things fall to the ground. So we don't know what gravity is, but meanwhile, we cloned a sheep. We cloned Dolly. That's great. How about we focus on the little before we go to the sheep cloning? God damn it. I will cut scientists a little bit of slack because it seems like whenever they figure something out, there's just a whole new set of problems that emerge. Take the universe, for example. Chris, make me really tiny and looking out at the stars. This is the universe. Very big, very confusing. We figured out that we weren't at the center of it, but that was just like the very first issue. And then we realized it's expanding. Maybe? The universe is a crazy concept, and at the end of the day, it is our home, but it can either be finite or infinite. Both of which scare the shit out of me. I understand this isn't gonna change my day-to-day life. Like, finding out I live in an infinite universe is gonna change how I act on a Thursday, but wouldn't you like to know if the house you lived in had infinite hallways? Like, you look down a hallway and you're like, that looks really long, and then someone's like, oh, it goes on forever. You're like, okay, is that true? And they're like, well, maybe, we don't know. We haven't been to the end of the hallway. And you're like, okay, well, can someone figure that out, please? Because I don't want, that's making me want to cry. But I guess it's no surprise that we don't know how big the universe is when you consider that we don't even know what it's made of. Well, we kind of do. We know that 20% of the universe is made up of this stuff. Matter, but we know that 80% of it is made up of that we can't even see, and they call that dark matter. When did we figure that out? Just you can't see, so they call it dark matter. Very creative name, but scientists have no clue what it is. We have no clue what dark matter is. And once again, when I was in school, we didn't know about dark matter. Is that like a newer thing? Some scientists think that it could be tiny black holes, and other scientists think that it might be ghost-like particles, which at this point feels like we're not even talking about science anymore. But I like the idea that scientists have called them WIMPs, W-I-M-P-S, which stands for weakly interacting massive particles. I don't really understand the science behind WIMPs, and it's more theoretical than anything else, but if dark matter is an example of scientists phoning in a name, then WIMPs represents the opposite. It's a relevant, self-explanatory, and hilarious name. But then there's annoying stuff that we don't know. Things that make me so angry I can't believe it. How come I get random pain sometimes? That's probably the biggest mystery I have sometimes. Like, while I was filming this, literally, my arm felt tingly. Not tingly, but it felt like, I don't know how to explain it. My arm felt weird. And then, is that just my brain freaking out? And then it just goes away after a little bit, but if I think about it too much, then I have a panic attack, and it's never in one consistent place. Like, sometimes my kidney area feels bad. I'm like, guess I'm dying, and then, like, I'll have random chest pain, and that's fine, and then my toe hurts sometimes. Is this just getting older? Like, is my body falling apart, or is this normal? I'm freaking out. Just one more time, I want to make it clear that I'm not against science. This isn't some call to arms for all my Tugglets to reject the collective knowledge of experts. It's important to understand that science is always evolving. The more we learn, the more we better understand ourselves and the worlds around us. With that being said, by the very nature and definition of science, it's bound to be wrong quite a bit. Our endless curiosity and thirst for innovation means there will always be mysteries in the world. Just be sure that the scientists that you're listening to and the experts that you're involving yourself with are not blowing cigarette smoke up your ass. New videos every Saturday and every other Wednesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. Actually do all of those things. Ring that goddamn bell if you're about it, and extra Tugg, you guys know about it, $4 a month. You get a new video every week. You get to see I don't know, my ass. I don't know if that's true, maybe one day, but you see dirty things. We just made a video on animal sex, which was horrendous. There's a lot of animal penises in that video. You get your name at the end of the video, and you get to support me. Anything else on this piece of paper that I gotta worry about? Nope, just a wasted piece of paper. Cool. All right, thank you guys for watching. This video literally f***ed me up, so I'm gonna walk that way and not panic.